Is Fox in or out on the Pac-12 when it comes to TV negotiations? Also, is the TV negotiation fight, the Big 12 Pac-12 rivalry, is it becoming a little bit too much of a rivalry? I'll explain on today's show.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Big 12 podcast. Thank you all for making us a part of your day. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. It is March 23rd. Our goal is 3,700 subscribers by the end of March. We're at like 3,650, 3,660 right now. So please subscribe. Tell your friends. If you have multiple YouTube accounts, please subscribe to the channel. We always appreciate that. Make sure you guys like the videos. Leave comments as well. Let us know what your thoughts are on all of these things happening right now, especially conference realignment, which is the hottest topic of all. Make sure you guys follow us on Twitter at LOBig12. You guys can find me at JoshNeighbors_ as well. Once again, YouTube is where you guys can find the show. Also, wherever you guys get your podcast, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, all of those places. If you all cannot watch the show on YouTube, if you're driving, if you got something else going on, if you're out for a run and you want to hear the show, that is how you can listen to us. All right, let's do it, folks. So the latest kind of news in the Pac-12, Big 12 fight, and people are saying, oh, well, you just updated the Pac-12. Well, guys, like the Big 12 is so clearly targeting schools, and the Pac-12, basically every little thing that we see could impact the future of the Big 12. Short-term, long-term, how many teams are in the league, where the teams are, all of those things. And so I think the latest piece of news is a very interesting one. And it's kind of the public fight about whether or not Fox is involved in the Pac-12 TV negotiations. So John Canzano from johncanzano.com covers the Pac-12. He has said that Fox is involved along with Amazon, Apple TV+, ESPN. Dennis Dodd of CBS Sports and then Brett McMurphy of the Action Network are both saying that Fox is not involved in these talks. Here's what I'll read from Brett McMurphy. Fox is not involved and hasn't been for some time in negotiations for the Pac-12's media rights deal, sources told Action Network HQ. Fox and the Pac-12 haven't had conversations regarding the Pac-12's media rights deal for several months, a source said. Then multiple sources, this is Dennis Dodd from CBS, continue to tell CBS Sports that Fox is not involved in the Pac-12 at this time. And then John Canzano had said that they are one of the parties involved. And so once again, guys, it's tough with all of this. I hate to call, some people Big 12 homers or Pac-12 homers, but Dennis Dodd does get a lot of the Big 12 information before a lot of other folks do. Brett McMurphy is, I think, Oklahoma State guy, but not saying like that's where his loyalties lie. I'm saying is if you cover a certain part of the country, you cultivate sources in that part of the country, they're more willing to trust you. And not saying your work is slanted, but that's where you're getting a lot of your information from. Not saying once again that they're not trying to get information from another side, but their reliable sources are placed in specific places, specific regions and whatnot. Same thing goes for John Canzano. I will say this. I think there are a few more cracks in the work of John Canzano, especially when it comes to timelines and deadlines. And I know these things can move, but the goalposts have been moving on a lot of what John Canzano has said for a long time. Now, the problem with that is, or I think what it shows is that, he speaks to a lot of folks in the conference and they're saying, we're going to get it done by then. We hope to have it done by then. This is our target. This is our date. This is our range. This is who we're talking to. Why is that? Well, it's for leverage, right? It is leverage. The reason why last week the Pac-12 wanted to go out and do their media tour is to cool off things, to give themselves the appearance of more leverage by A, sticking together, and B, talking about price ranges and just having, see that public face out there doing it. Behind the scenes, they're working just as hard as the Big 12 is, right? The Big 12, I think with WME, IMG, Endeavor, at least that's what I used to know them as in the UFC days when they were involved there. They're still involved in the parent company, but they have been helping the Big 12 with, I think, the public strategy. I think very much the public strategy has been keep on keeping on with the, hey, we're talking. The schools and us are talking. We are talking. That has been obviously a massive, massive storyline out of the Big 12 side that they are talking. And I think that much was basically confirmed by the Arizona president, who's like, yeah, we're with the Pac-12 right now, but if George doesn't land the, land the plane here, then we're going to have to, assess our options. So I think from all the perspectives, right, you have to understand that with John, and then obviously with Brett and Dennis getting a lot of their information on the Big 12 side. I will say this, just steadfast Dennis Dodd has been about the idea that Big 12 schools, or the Big 12 conference rather, the Pac-12 are talking. He has been very, very consistent saying that's happening, that's been happening, it's still happening, and the Big 12 has their eyes on those 4 schools. Obviously, I think they'd like to get Oregon and Washington there, but Dennis has been pretty consistent with that. And Brett too. I mean, Brett had the weird Ion report, which never got confirmed outside of that. But I think I trust Brett, because when everybody said, hey, the ESPN and Fox and SEC and Oklahoma and Big 12 deal, they're taking a break, they couldn't find a deal, looks like they're going to stay. Brett McMurphy was one of the folks saying, whoa, they're not done talking. They've just hit somewhat of an impasse at the moment. And lo and behold, the deal got done. I think it was like a week later, a couple days later after Brett had said that. So this is where we have to be very, very careful about, about how we're kind of receiving all of this, about, hey, not the reporters' agendas, but the agendas of the folks that they are talking to. Right. And also, I think it's pretty easy to say that, like, Brett McMurphy will still have a job. I hit that there. Brett McMurphy will still have a job, a pretty successful job. If the Big 12 goes, if the Big 12 were to, dissipate, or excuse me, the Big 12 were to add Pac-12 teams, he'd still be fine, right? Same thing for Dennis. He'd still be fine. Who stands to kind of lose a lot? I mean, John Canzano does. He covers the Pac-12, and obviously he's very tight with those folks. So that is why, I think John Wilner has been doing some more coverage. I do feel like at times there has been a bit of cheerleading. And I'll throw Dennis in this too. I mean, Dennis has put out basically the same message from the Big 12 a bunch, right? How many articles from Dennis Dodd have we gotten about the Big 12's interest in the Pac-12? Like, numerous. And they essentially say the same things. It's the same thing over and over and over again. But the Big 12 is wanting to keep that pressure up. So we have talked to them. We plan to talk to them. We are still targeting them. We are talking to them again. We're talking to them weekly. We're just seeing that news being framed. And that's part of the Big 12 keeping the pressure up. And I think from Canzano's side, you're seeing they're closing in on the deal. It's going to happen. They might get as much as the Big 12. They might get more than the Big 12. They're pretty confident about that. Look at the public face. They're all together. This is heading this direction. And that's where we reach this with Fox. You're hearing from John Canzano that Fox is involved. We have not heard Fox being involved at all, in recent, I think, weeks and months. I have not heard that from Andrew Marchand. I mean, he's been pretty consistent, and John Orand over from the Sports Business Journal, those two guys who host that awesome podcast together. They have been consistent in saying that that the Fox is really not involved and has not been involved in a long time. And so the 3 big players are Apple TV Plus, Amazon, and ESPN, right? Those are 3 big players. Dennis and Brett, you go confirming multiple sources, could be the same folks, but their multiple sources are saying, no, Fox is not involved. And I don't think we're getting any indication of that. I really don't think there's any indication that they are involved, because I feel like the market would then be a bit more robust and our conversations would not be much about, hey, do or die for the Pac. It would be, all right, not a great spot to be in, but it looks like they've got 4 interested parties, 2 in the, ESPN and Fox in the cable space, plus some streaming on the ESPN side, and then 2 straight streamers, Apple TV Plus, and then also Amazon Prime. And so that is where I'm going to lean more towards Fox is not involved, because it just doesn't make a whole lot of, nothing that we've seen has really indicated Fox has much interest in the Pac-12 right now. Just not seeing that, unless you all believe Canzano out there, and that's fine. But I think the moving goalposts on what he has said in terms of date and expectations, that has me really questioning whether, their involvement. So I do not think Fox is involved, and I think it's right to question their involvement. I think it's right to question how many folks are legitimately involved. I do think something interesting that John Wilner brought up yesterday is the process rather, in regards to the interest from Apple TV and Amazon, and something that he mentioned that could be true. We'll assess the claim. But first, quick word from our sponsors on today's Locked On Big 12 podcast. Today's Locked On Big 12 is brought to you all by the FanDuel Sportsbook. It is America's #1 sportsbook, as you all know, the official sponsor of the National Basketball Association. They're also the official sponsor of us here at the Locked On Podcast Network. You guys can go there today, sign up at fanduel.com/locked on. It's easy to do. And you guys will check out that amazing, sleek, beautiful FanDuel interface that they have at fanduel.com/locked on today. FanDuel, make every single moment matter more with the #1 sportsbook in America, the FanDuel Sportsbook. So, as I mentioned, Apple TV Plus. Also, before we keep going, I want to mention coverage for the NCAA tournament. We've got Kansas State tonight. I'll have a reaction to that coming tomorrow, probably, maybe even tonight. I think their game should end pretty early, so I'll record some reaction to that. Might be short, might be long, depending on what happens. And then Texas tomorrow night, Jonzo Ball, our guy Jonzo Ball, Jonathan Davis, has us covered over there at Locked On Longhorns, and we'll have some coverage about that as well. So we're not ignoring that at all, but still, this stuff, this news about realignment remains hot in the streets right now. All right, so John Wilner made a good point, and I think it's something that we have to consider. I am not saying I believe this to be the case, but once again, something that we should consider. He says, the only thing I know for certain and have been told by multiple sources for weeks is the negotiations with Apple and Amazon take much longer than with ESPN because they don't have contractual templates for college football deals. So every step goes back to the lawyers for review. Okay, that's a great point by John. That is very true. Apple TV and Amazon do not have college contracts. Now, they do have sports templates. They do have sports contracts. Apple has multiple of them with the MLS and also with Major League Baseball. And then also we know that Amazon's got one with the NFL. How those differ with college football ones, I am not 100% sure. That is not my area of expertise, but I think it's safe to assume that there is some differences. And I also think it's safe to assume that there are some similarities. So it is a decent point. But I think the issue with the way John worded this, and I'm not sure if this is what he meant, folks, but I think we have to entertain this, is that, it's almost implying like the ESPN side of things is squared away and set in stone, right? So listen to, once again, I'm going to read what he said. Negotiations with Apple and Amazon take much longer, he stars those, than with ESPN because they don't have contractual templates for college football deals. So every step goes back to the lawyers for review. I'm not sure if this is implying that things are in a certain place with ESPN, or maybe he's saying, look, if it were to be ESPN, it could be faster. But once again, what we heard from Andrew Marchand is that those two sides are not close. ESPN and the Pac-12 are not close. So I think it's safe to say what is not holding up the deal is ESPN squared away. Let's just get a couple streaming partners squared away and get through that process, and then we're good to go. I think if you all disagree, let me know in the comments, but at least my read on this situation is that it is not a ESPN's good to go, we're locked in, let's work with the streamers. It is, maybe it's just the streamers. Maybe it is just going to be Amazon or Apple TV Plus. Maybe that is their only option right now. And so while lawyers could be involved, the process could be taking longer. I don't think we're hammering out the final details of a deal. It's not where the news seems like it's trending at this point in time. It's not what it feels like, guys. So guys and gals out there. So I mean, if you all disagree, let me know. But I believe Andrew Marchand when he says, look, they're not close. He has been pretty on with this stuff the entire time. The tone from John Oran, who I think he was pretty, hey, I think they'll get a deal done. He has changed his tune a little bit, and not saying that this was just him being somebody saying, I think they will. I think they got a product that people want. Oregon, Washington, I think somebody will come in. They were doing predictions, not based off of reporting. They were just kind of talking, a few months ago, Marchand and Oran. But now we're at a point now where with their reporting, they are saying like, yeah, we're not, it's not their right now. So I am curious to see. And look, I don't know if it's a pride thing at this point. Like, I know George Kliavkoff, promised, hey, we'll get more than the Big 12. He said, hey, we'll get more than them. We'll chase down the SEC. We'll chase down the Big 10 eventually. I'm not sure if this is pride getting in the way and they have that offer. It's right up there and squared away with the Big 12. I doubt that. But this is, every single passing day, the situation seems to get more and more dire for them. And it feels like, despite their, like yesterday or last week, rather, when they did their public showing of confidence, you cannot play that card more than once. Like, in a week and a half, you can't have the ADs go back, unless it's Oregon and Washington's AD, and be like, we're all committed. We're all together. We are not leaving. Unless that was to happen, you kind of shot your shot, right? Having the four corner schools, their ADs, their presidents, unless you have someone else go out there in bigger position. Like, who gives a rat's what if the Oregon State and Washington State ADs and presidents go out there? What does that mean? Nothing. Doesn't mean anything at all. Because guess what? They don't really matter in this, because nobody's talking about them going elsewhere. So unless you get one of those, you kind of shot your shot and the momentum was there, but everybody's just kind of waiting now. And, I know it's Thursday now, and we're not, I know there's another meeting on April 14th, I think, of the Pac-12 CEOs. They just had one over Zoom. And so that deadline, guys, like, these things fly by pretty fast. I remember Adam Rittenberg saying, hey, in 4, 5, 6 weeks, they don't have something kind of by April, the end of the NCAA tournament, then you're starting to get worried. Well, Sweet 16 the weekend, this weekend, guys. Sweet 16 this weekend. So they're heading towards that. And once again, they might be hammering out a deal, but I have to think that that it's not lawyers that's slowing this thing up. It's actual numbers and desire, because there's a lot of parties, a lot of mouths to feed, right? Oregon State, Washington State will take whatever. I've got no idea what in the hell Cal and Stanford are doing. I don't really know what they care much about. I don't know. I can tell you pretty confidently, I think we know Arizona, the Arizona State, Utah, Colorado want to stay together, but they all have some pretty clear ideas about how much money it needs to be to necessitate them staying together. Then you got Oregon and Washington. What kind of deficit will they take to the rest of the big schools out there? They've got to consider that as well. So there's a bunch of mouths to feed, and I think it's more likely than not that it's not lawyers' contracts slowing this down. Well, that could make the negotiation process a bit harder for the Pac-12. I don't think it's like we're reaching the deal. It's just slowing down because of this. So that's where I am on that. Final thing is the rivalry, folks, and kind of the animosity. I'm seeing a lot of this in the mentions here. And look, I love you folks. I'm glad you guys listen to the show. I'm seeing a lot of this on the internet, replying to reporters and whatnot, talking about people taking L's and making fun of it. Like, look, this thing does not need to be a nasty, mean rivalry. I tend to think the result of this as a whole is going to end up being something that's not going to make all of us happy. I hope it does. But I think the results might not be pretty as it is. The results so far of conference realignment have not been pretty either. And so I don't think we need to devolve to making fun of reporters, making fun of conferences, making fun of people. Like, we just don't need to do that. The conferences, whatever, it's fine. I don't really care. Like, I know there's one person who comments, Longhorn pundit, who just makes it's like, when the Big 12 is going to become the Patriot League. And it's pretty funny when he does it. Like, I actually laugh every single time. So at some point, the Big 12 will be taking high schools, like stuff like that. Good. Funny. I enjoy, I laugh at it. But the personal attacks on reporters, and I've even seen it from reporter to reporter, like the quote tweeting, the posting of images, the receipts part of things. There is a level of accountability that journalists and reporters and even folks like me should have for what we say and what we put out there. And look, guys, you guys know me. I'm reacting to information. I am not putting out information. So if you guys disagree with my takes, my opinions, my thoughts, you all may share that with me. It's fine. But if somebody gets something wrong, they should own up to it. At the same time, we don't need to ridicule people. We don't need to make fun of them. We don't have to do that kind of stuff. This is college athletics. I think at times through this entire process and other stories as well, we forget that the whole reason we love this thing, and I think about my time at Missouri, you all think about your time and whatever school you went to, or the days when you grew up. And, I'll even mention this, I grew up a Virginia Tech fan. My fondest memories are going to Virginia Tech football games. Those are the ones that I remember the most. Those are the biggest wins we got, were in Virginia Tech football. Those are the biggest wins that I saw. I do not forget the awesome memories that I had, 3.5 hour drive with my friends and, grilling before the game and going into night games and watching Enter Sandman and, watching the sunset and getting hyped with all my, my buddies going to games and enjoying them. Like, that feeling is what we're all chasing here. That is what this is all about. Now, the big thing is we all want to play Division I athletics at a major level, but we forget that that's what this is all about. And, I think the more and more college sports has changed, and they're going to change, it's fine. But it feels like at times we get really, really far away. We talk about playoff expansion, conference realignment, all of those things. We get really far away from what makes college sports awesome and makes them great. So number one, enjoy the NCAA tournament because it makes college sports great. Enjoy Marquise Noel's run where people are like, no, Marquise Noel is so good because they're just learning who he is. Like, this guy's a badass. Love this. I'm not saying he's not, but like people are like, Marquise Noel, they don't know his name, whatever. But enjoy these great moments, these players that come along. Everybody's learning about them. Enjoy that great stuff. If you're going to the games, enjoy it. Enjoy all of this, guys. Enjoy all of this. I'm working in Arkansas right now, and people are eating up this championship or this tournament run. They're eating up that win against Kansas, and it's great to see. But, I know at the same time, hey, look, not everybody's Arkansas. Not everybody's in the SEC. Not everybody feels safe about their future. That's fine. That's cool. But even more so, enjoy those moments. Enjoy going to the games. Enjoy the tailgates. Think about those great football memories you have and basketball memories, because I promise you all, while you all might have rivalries of Pac-12 fans on Twitter or whatever it is, Washington State fans love their team the same way that Kansas State fans do. Oregon State fans out there love their teams the same way Iowa State fans do. We all care and love our teams. That's what this is about. There does not need to be a belittling of people. I was pretty disappointed to see some folks do it. Like, there is no need to be mean. Because I know the thing is, too, a lot of these reporters feel like there's a lot of pressure on them to get this stuff right. All right? You get this stuff right. They want to be correct. They don't want to be wrong. They don't. I don't like being wrong. I don't want to put out bad information. And they're not even trying to just be right for the sake of being right. They just want to be correct because that is their job. They want to get the information correct. So, that is why I mentioned, hey, if we're in the comment, like, you guys can tell me whatever you want in the comment section. It's fine. I can put up with it. But there's no need to demean people on Twitter. There's no need to, I'm not saying you all are guilty of it. I'm just saying out there, I've been disappointed to see some comments back and forth and people getting dragged for certain stuff as well. Once again, there needs to be accountability. We don't have to do it in a way where we're calling names, talking about people taking L's, all that kind of stuff. We don't need to have that. But you guys know me. I've been reporting on a lot of this. I talk about the situation as it is. I'm not pulling any punches here. I'm just giving my honest assessment of all the situation going on. All right, that will do it for today's show. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at LOBig12. You guys can find me at @JoshNeighbors_. You guys can find the show wherever you get your podcasts, and also on YouTube as well. Like the video, please subscribe to the channel, and leave your comments as well. Till next time, my friends, as always, stay safe.